Mayor Bass, thank you for joining us here at Has-Beens today. Please let our viewers know at home and across the internet, why are you running for Humboldt County Supervisor 4th District this year?
Simply put, I can make a difference. I've lived here all my life, and I think Humboldt County is a great place to be, but I think it can be better. And I think I'm a person who has skill sets necessary to help move the community in a positive direction. You know, it's tough because everyone, how do I put this? I think we all basically want the same thing, and we want a better community, but we have different ideas how to get there. And I think the important thing is trying to bridge the gaps and bring the different sides together and find a way, you know, to get that improvement in the community.
And what do you feel you've accomplished in your, I guess, 6 years on the City Council and coming into a 4th year as Mayor of Eureka?
Well, that's a real broad-ranging question, and I'm trying to think where to start. Obviously, there's projects that we've accomplished as, I'd say, as a team. Something during elections that I notice, and I just think it's indicative of elections, is people take credit for a lot of projects, and it sounds like they did them. That's good English right there. Sounds like they've done them all by themselves. And one thing, you know, I can say I'm very proud of is I've been part of the team with the City of Eureka, who've made some really great strides in the community. In the areas of recreation, I know it doesn't sound like a really big issue, but one of my favorite things that we did was the establishing the disc golf course. And my son obviously thinks that's the best one. He's 22 and thinks it's really cool. But there's small projects like that started with an idea coming from an employee of mine at the restaurant. Then there's much bigger projects such as the Fisherman's Terminal area, which we've got going right now, which is actually going to create and save up to 61 jobs. And it may not sound like a lot, but when you put those projects together, it's huge for the community. We've been really instrumental in helping with the establishment of the new Alzheimer's Center. We've done, gosh, a skateboard park, which we all have had a part of for the last 20 years. It's so nice to have seen it done, and I will give kudos to Jeff for you know, helping lead the way on the fundraising of that. I do believe that it's good to give credit where credit's due.
In terms of redevelopment, that's something Eureka seems to do well, Arcata seems to do well. Humboldt County started a redevelopment process, spent about $100,000 on it, and then sort of pulled the plug on it. What's your take on where the county's at with redevelopments or not having a redevelopment agency, and whether they should go ahead and form one again?
You know, that's a real interesting question that I hadn't thought of a whole lot in depth until recently when I was looking back through, I think it was the last election, and there was a lot of talk on the county and redevelopment, and maybe that's where they should go, and that was going to be the idea to bring jobs in. And I think what happened, and it's unfortunate that so much money has to be spent to make the determination, but I think it was realized that the benefit to the community, because the county is more rural, was going to be, there's a lot less benefit to be realized than they originally believed. I currently don't think there's a desire to move redevelopment forward. However, this whole campaign process is about educating myself and learning from people and talking to people. So, you know, I could be wrong. I just don't see there being a great movement in that direction at this point in time.
Now, in terms of the county's general plan, that's sort of the blueprint for how Humboldt County is going to develop over the next however many years or even decades. What's your stance on how that process has been handled by the supervisors? What would you do differently?
Well, it's kind of funny when you said how the county is going to progress over the years and the decades, and the first thought that comes to my mind is I certainly hope this plan gets done somewhere before the next decade. It's unfortunately taken, I think, too long to get the plan updated, but then again, I think there's so many things that have been involved. I think you're asking me what do I think they could have done differently. And I don't want to speak for the supervisors, though I think that there was lacking a clear direction. My understanding is when the general plan came out, even the options A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3, they came out a little bit later, and the numbers or initials were different, and it just seems like we keep restarting the engine. And I would have, not having been in their place, so I can't speak for them, it just seems that there should have been a clearer process. I can't understand why It takes it's taking our community so much longer to get it done than traditionally happens in other communities. I think public participation could have been more readily received. I do believe that there's been opportunities for the public to speak, but I think what's happened is there's no real clear idea of what's coming up on the agenda or where the discussion is going to go, so it's really hard to go in and comment on the subject in a knowledgeable fashion when you don't have that information. So I just think, if the process had been a little more clearly, determined before they set forward, would that have made a difference, made it go more quickly? I don't know.
Now, in terms of the values more broadly that are being contested through the general plan process, and obviously competing interests would probably feel the way they do regardless of whether we were in this process or not. Infill versus sprawl, do you think there's room for both building up in our major cities in the county as well as establishing new communities or broadening the scope of those rural communities that it seems like the hot button issues are whether these unincorporated communities like McKinleyville, Garberville are going to be able to continue to grow and spread out?
Well, you mentioned infill, and I think everybody I know agrees that infill is necessary and it's a great idea. I talk to people I know who live downtown, and it's so vibrant, and it's the new restaurant opening. It's like the happening place to be. And if I were in a different stage where I didn't have animals, children, and it'd be a perfect place for me to live, and I could see really enjoying. And I think it's a great housing opportunity that we need to continue to increase. And it's not just for the people. I think of it because of the affordability factor. And it's not necessarily that everything down here is going to be considered affordable housing, but it's it's a broad range of housing. It's for people from all levels, and it's just, I think, really exciting that we have the infill opportunities available. You mentioned sprawl, and that's always a word that kind of gets maybe people's hackles up a little bit. When I think of the options or the different plans, options that are available, I know sprawl comes up as an issue, but personally, I don't think I consider it sprawl when development is kept within the general area of the community. Certainly, if people wanted to start plopping houses along the agricultural area, where you've got no homes, that would not be something I would want to see. But if somebody wants to live out in McKinleyville, and if the infrastructure is there for those homes to be built, I think people should have the opportunity to experience the suburban, rural way of living. Because just as much as someone may want to live in, upstairs apartment in a vibrant city area, there are people who also want that little space of that, privacy, or that little space that they can call their own that has more of the rural appeal.
In general, then, what would you say is your vision for economic development and most especially for job creation over the next 4 to 8 years?
I thought you said 40 years. It's like, well, Charles, thank you. I think the vision has to be a little bit different. I believe it's really important to be open-minded, and in some ways I think, and this may not be true, but I think it's a vision that people from other places see, is we're almost in some ways a closed community to new ideas in helping the economy. Perhaps people who would like to bring their businesses here don't, because they don't feel they're welcome. I think we've got to find a way to communicate to people that Humboldt County is open for business, and to look at projects that are responsible, and a good fit for Humboldt County.